You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Mary McMonagle. 3 feminine habits men find wildly attractive. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited for you because today I have Mary McMonagle on our show. She's a feminine energy coach. She's an intuitive healer, which I love. And she has a passion for guiding high-achieving women to help them break free from their limitations and embrace the true essence of who they are. She's the founder of True Vibe, which is a compelling spiritual lifestyle brand. And she is devoted to helping individuals like you unlock your true potential. So I'm super happy that you're here,
Hi,
Mary.
Marni. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
So I want to just kick things off right away, talking about feminine energy. Because I was on social media the other day and someone was like, kind of talking about like, you know, forget the feminine and the masculine and there's all these labels and like, can we just like all be who we are and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering, like, it's, you know, a new era, it seems like, for lots of things. Do you find that this is something that we should toss out, this identity of femininity, of feminine energy, or like, what's going on?
Oh, this is such a good question.
Okay, good. I'm so glad.
Okay, I love this. So I'm going to start off absolutely not. And I believe that the people who maybe the topic of feminine or masculine energy is triggering for some people because
why?
We're overthinking it. We're overcomplicating it. And we're making it mean too many different things. And one of the things that I'm very big on how I teach feminine energy is my feminine energy is going to look and feel a lot different than your feminine energy, Marni, or look and feel a lot different than the person, the male, the woman, whoever, because all human beings, we have feminine and masculine energy. And I've studied it on many different levels, on many, many different levels. But I think we tend to overthink it because this is two powerful energies that we all have masculine energy as well, that we can harness and actually use to then bring in that oneness, that wholeness that these people are talking about. But it's going to look very, very different.
So what I hear you saying is that our femininity is unique to each of us, and it's expressed in different ways. And that the label sort of like feminine isn't necessarily out because it's part of who we really are, right? Exactly. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Even if you were to take the example of health and trying to optimize your body. I am a vegetarian, but I'm a big believer if you are a carnivore and you want to do the carnivore diet and that's what feels good to you, amazing. Our goal, and this is the same thing with feminine energy, is to unlock that power within you. So if you're optimizing your body and maybe someone is saying, okay, you have to optimize your body this way, but it doesn't necessarily resonate with you, that's okay. But we don't have to blame the whole concept of like, oh, well, I can't be a healthy person.
Okay, I've got another question for you here. So, so I talk to a lot of women, and they have a hard time accessing the emotional part of themselves. They weren't raised that way. They work in corporate, or they have some sort of like cultural context, societal pressure that, you know, it's not okay. And then they sort of like never really learn how to do it.
Yeah.
It becomes more of like a pain in the ass than an asset. So if you were going to talk about, like, first of all, why because there's people that are just powering through on masculine energy and they're like, I'm fine. So why do we need it? Why is it important? Why do we not want to ignore this part of ourselves?
And just to like build up to that question, Marni, is I was someone who was very much in my masculine energy, where and it all comes from childhood. When I was a kid, if I spoke up or shared how I was feeling, I got told to go to my room and sit in my room, and I was never really seen within my emotions. So over time that would build up, because if anything, if I thought I was going to cry or get upset, that I made that mean I'm going to get in trouble, or I made it mean emotions or you're showing weakness. So what I would do, Marni, if I felt like I was going to cry, was I would bite my tongue. So I'd feel pain and I wouldn't cry. So I share that for your listeners because listen, I get it. I used to think feminine energy was laziness and weakness. And so to go back to your question of really, why is it important? It's a natural part of who we are as humans. If you look back, I've studied this on evolutionary psychology, on an evolutionary psychology level, is we as humans, we are built to connect. And when we can connect on, okay, maybe a logical, more of a masculine energetic level of, right, oh, you like to do these things, I like to do these things. But how we really maximize our lives and make the most of our time here and our purpose is through being able to deepen connection. And we deepen connections when we allow ourselves to share how we're feeling, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think this is really an important thing because I did the same thing. I mean, I remember sitting in a workshop when I was in my 20s because I got married really, really young. And I was having trouble in my first marriage. And my husband did this program and I went there sort of like as a support person. And I remember sitting there, Mary, like feeling the tears well up and being like, just look up, just look up. Like, don't let them fall over the edge of your eyelid, like working so hard at not wanting to feel those feelings. So the thing is, let me ask you this. So when you're in that space, how would you quantify then feminine energy, right? Like if someone's like, well, I don't have time for that, or like, I just need to get shit done, or, I don't need a guy, like I don't want one, I don't have time for one, right? Like I get all of those things that people feel. So what are some ways that you might be kind of squishing a part of yourself that has nothing to do with love per se, or intimacy or sex or any of those things that get muted when we're not connected or even curious about our feminine essence?
Totally. So when you are out of alignment with your feminine energy, it's really easy to push people away. It's really easy to get stuck in our own way, where I'm very, again, I teach this because I go through it myself, where I feel like, oh, I really need to do these tasks because these are going to be moving the needle forward. But my body and my soul is saying, hey, Mary, you need to go for a walk. You need to reset. And so it actually is we're actually stopping ourselves from growing, because, and we are trying to control everything. So a big part of being in your feminine energy is letting go of control. And
right,
we know, as I know your podcast as spiritual beings, you talk about manifestation. We are not the universe, God, whatever, your higher self. We are not that. So you are stopping yourself from, let's just even use the term higher self, from connecting deeper with your higher self, because you're trying to force outcomes. So a big piece of how we're really just getting in the own way of expanding our purpose, and whether that's helping people or maximizing our income or falling in love.
And I think this is a really important point. So listen up if you're just spacing out, right? Because what I hear that Mary's saying is like, we're these whole beings, right? And so you could just call it like red, blue, orange, green, right? Like we don't even have to put a name on it, right? But like, imagine if like you move at your most optimum manifestation, income, creativity, connection, fun, joy, when all of those are like full, the tank is full. And you're like just saying, well, I don't like the orange one. I don't know how to do it. It's uncomfortable. It makes me, it's harder to manage. So I'm just going to shut that one off. You're like not flying through the world in your experience in your human body, like, flying as high and as free and as having as much fun as you can because you're making a choice. And I think the thing I want to ask you about next is that using that analogy, most people who are shutting their feminine energy down are actually really powerful, high achieving people, right? So they're like, well, that's hard, or I don't know how to do that, or I don't need that, or I don't want to get rejected or feel feelings. I don't have time for that shit. So I understand the logic. It's a logic answer. So what do you say to those people? What's a way to start getting willing to explore this? I think of it like do an experiment. What would it look like? But how do you start if you are kind of afraid or feel like it's going to take you off your path?
Totally. Yes. I think you hit the nail on the head, Marni, with one of those fears that it might take you off your path. And it absolutely is for a little while. And the reason I share that is when you start to really step more into your true self, step more into your feminine energy, your purpose of why you're here, there are going to be trials and tribulations that are going to happen. And that is a good thing. So one of the things that I always say is we can only go as high, as low as we've been. So if we're suppressing ourselves from feeling, if we're like, I don't have time to be angry, or the past version of myself, I just always had to be the happy, positive, life is all good person. Oh, there's Mary. She always has to be happy. When inside I was struggling. I did not feel good. But if we can only go as high, as low as we've been. So if we're stopping ourselves from feeling our feelings, then we're stopping ourselves from growth. We're stopping ourselves from all the logistical things too of more money, right? As business owners, we know when we go through a really challenging time or really challenging year or something crazy happens, and then we get through it and we look at the hindsight and we're like, wow, thank goodness this happened because I learned so much. So it's the same thing as when we are moving through these difficult emotions, that we are allowing ourselves to go through this experience, and that experience at times can totally be uncomfortable.
Oh, we're having technical difficulties here, Mary. Oh, we had some tech difficulties. You disappeared there for a minute.
I knew it was tech, but I kept going on and on. So hopefully
No, it's fine. We'll edit it. So, but we lost you sort of at like your example, I think, if you just want to back up.
Yeah. So I always say we can only go as high, as low as we've been. And if we know as business owners, when you are going through a really challenging month, a challenging year, but we get through it, right? That's our masking. We're going to do this. We're going to complete this task. And then you look back and in hindsight, you learn, you're able to gain wisdom from those challenges. That is the growth that's going to then propel you forward, moving into the next season of your business. So you're prepared. So it's the same thing with our emotions. If we are allowing ourselves to just take a moment and say, okay, well, why am I frustrated? Why am I having a little bit of anxiety? And then pull that learning, that's going to propel us even more to feel more focused, because our bodies hold everything. If you're pushing down fear, sadness, grief, guilt, shame, your body's holding on to that. So no matter how far you're going forward, if you haven't taken the time to actually pull what that learning is and why it's presenting itself, then you're blocking yourself from that growth in other areas.
So powerful. So one of our listeners asked me a really powerful question. She was like, "Will you talk about this on the podcast?" And I was like, "I'm going to talk about it with Mary because it's really you're so good. This is right up your alley." So one of the things we were talking about is that, like, when we focus on giving, right? Like, really, and that's a very feminine energy, right? Rather than what's in it for me, or anger, or greed, or scarcity, all those sort of energies, right? And so I had said, like, when we focus on giving, rather than taking, or what's in it for me, we're gonna be in a higher alignment with ourselves. And this listener was like, "I'm a recovering codependent, and I was just giving, and I wasn't taking anything, and it wasn't receiving." And she said, it's a really fine line. So what for you and your understanding of feminine energy, how do you walk that line of, like, being in love from a place of love, from being in that feminine nurture give without, becoming like a people pleaser caretaker?
I love that. And so we talked about half of you mentioned half about how I'm going to connect to the other half of this. But first, I want to say that the way that I come about with feminine energy, giving is actually more of a masculine energy, because you're taking on that leadership, and you're bringing forth that, like, I would like to provide and care for you. But it does, comes in with the balance of that, like you said, that nurturing.
Right.
And a big piece is also balancing these energies. And the other half of that, Marni, is being able to receive, because a lot of times women who are big givers, and I'm a huge giver myself. I still am. I know I overgive to my clients, but it's from a way that I feel very safe in, because I also have the other half of that, which is being able to receive. But I think when you're an overgiver, like, I know in the past version of Mary, I was an overgiver because I didn't feel fully secure in my business and with coaching. And so for that listener, I would ask yourself, well, where is that need to overgive coming from? Because is it maybe coming from a place to be understood or to receive love back? Oftentimes as women, we think we have to give first to then receive. So I would even challenge that listener a little bit of, how can you actually focus on receiving? How can you focus on, okay, maybe someone, and it's these small moments that I love to bring forth, that, okay, maybe instead of you feeling like you need to rush to the door to hold it open for someone, that you actually take your time and you slowly move through and allow that person to hold the door for you. So a big part of that is actually starting to switch into feeling safe to receive. But then, that I can go on and on about this, because then a lot of us are afraid to receive, because then we feel like we have to give back, but receiving with no strings attached.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of two things. One is, I remember when I was single and dating, and I thought, like, well, if I receive, like, if I open myself back up, then that means it could go away. And it took me so long to become self-sufficient, right? And be like enough and feel capable. Like, if I go and start asking for help, or start allowing it, or even expecting it, right? Then I'm going to be devastated. I'm going to be a puddle on the floor, and I'm going to have to, like, build it back up. So how do you reconcile that? Because that's the past trauma, right? That's coming in saying, like, the little part of yourself, your emotional child, is like, no, don't do that. It's not safe, right? So how do you
I
work
love
through
this
that?
question, Marni. Okay, I'll share a personal example, because I'm always putting in the work myself. Again, with feminine energy, it's ongoing growth. And so I'm newly into a relationship, and I've been single 6 years, and I will have these moments where my mind says, well, he does this and that doesn't align with you. You need to like throw the fire in the garbage can and like burn it all down.
Right.
And so a big part of that is one, catching yourself when you're in these moments.
Right.
And then being able to really assess, does this feel true for me? And oftentimes I find for myself is, okay, I am so self-sufficient that I tell myself it's actually easier if I'm alone. It's easier if it's just me and my dog.
Yeah. The lie or the story, or for some of you, maybe it is a truth. Like it's easier when I'm alone.
And in a way that's a truth that am growing through, right? Because again, feminine energy is going to push you to grow. And I'm learning actually, okay, it is a little bit more challenging, but it's challenging in a good way. It's challenging. Okay. Again, to put it back on a business example, I have this problem. How can I overcome this? And what goes into play there, Marni, is that's going to challenge your listeners, people who are ready to step in their feminine energy, communication, boundaries, being able to, okay, I notice I'm like really, really giving. Why am I giving? Oh, because I feel like I need to prove myself. So let me challenge myself to really just allow myself to receive. And one thing too, before I finish up on, I feel called on, because you mentioned the word expectations, and this came to me to just share on, is everyone's expectations is so different. Everyone's standards is so different. So when you are stepping into your feminine energy, and maybe you're just working on being able to receive a compliment, whereas someone who is already more really strong and connected and expanding her feminine energies, she expects compliments. But again, it's this balance where if you're not getting it, then you get to then let go. But feminine energy just makes more life fun. And actually you get to move through life with more gratitude, because even when you are expecting things to happen and it doesn't happen, you feel so grateful, because the masculine energy wants to control and make things happen. But when you are in your feminine energy, you're able to say, wow, I'm actually really grateful.
I love this. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about. So I had this, so I went to my 40th class reunion last weekend. That's why I'm like, my voice is basically gone. And I, was really thinking about, I live in this mountain town now, and like I really changed a lot of my identity, right? And part of that is what does it mean to be feminine? And this is a little thing, but it was really huge. So I decided, I was like, I'm going to like dress up for this thing. Like I'm going to really be in my feminine energy. I'm going to wear like a girly girl dress. I'm going to, and as I was sort of thinking about it and trying to figure it out, I definitely was out of practice. I heard the little voice in my head, Mary, being like, this is so trite. Why do you give a shit? Like, like this is, and I was like, is this just my ego? Right? Like, do I need to like look a certain way or dress a certain way so that people think things about me? And if someone who's like, like shed a lot of those things, I really had to get honest about like, well, what is this? What is an expression of this part of me? But the voice inside was like, oh my God, you're obsessing about like shapewear, or you're like, who gives a shit, like which dress you pick or whatever it is. And I just wanted to share that because I think that there's so many voices that can come in about what you should and shouldn't do and what's valuable and what's not valuable and what's important. And I really had to keep checking myself to be like, all I want is express a certain part of myself and have fun doing it and show up as more of me. but it was challenging to like continue to be honest about that. So can you kind of address that? Because I think a lot of people are like, well, femininity or being feminine or wearing a dress or is girly girl, and that's not valued or that's stupid.
Oh, I love this, Marni. And I just want to like honor your vulnerability too and sharing that powerful example, because I really think you sharing that is going to then help tie together what I'm about to share. So one, right, you're like, I was thinking about what I was going to wear, thinking logic, masculine, right? And you're like, oh, is this coming from the ego? And then a big part, and why I'm so passionate about feminine energy, because I think, and I made this mistake myself, where it's like, oh, feminine energy, let me go do yoga and take bubble baths and long walks and la 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 land. And these were my thoughts. And that's more doing. That's actually masculine energy. The way that being in your feminine energy is all about who you are going to be. So when you use that example, Marni, I heard you say, well, I want to show up to this event really expressed and expressive and have fun and show up. Look at that energy right there. And so I take that piece and I share with your listeners, maybe if you have an example like with Marni, where you're really in your head about something, just say, how do I want to show up when I'm there? How do I want to feel for myself? Nobody else. Marni's like, I want to have fun. So then leading up to that, maybe you are still feeling a little bit uncomfortable about wearing a tight, sexy dress. So as you're getting ready, you're like, I'm going to get into this energy of have fun. I'm going to dance around and just like be goofy.
Were you in my room, Mary? That's exactly what I was doing. I was like, I'm putting 80s music on, and I'm going to learn how to tape my titties up, and I'm going to go for it.
Yes. And that is, look at like, your energy, right? And I'm sure if you're listening, you can feel that. Like, yes, I'm going to tape my titties up. We're going to do the thing. And because again, a lot of us, again, myself, who really are maybe scared to shift in the feminine or come from really this masculine, I need to work hard, be this person, is we really can come about it in a logical sense where it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go get my nails done and I'm in my feminine energy. No. It's who you are being. And so, when I go through this time and time again where I'm like, ooh, what do I want to wear? I'm very expressive with my clothes. That's my art to me. And sometimes I can find myself, it's a practice to not dim your light. A quick example, a couple weeks ago, I went to a friend's house and I got all dressed up. That's how I am. Casual dinner. She's like, oh, you're wearing heels? And I said, of course I'm wearing heels. This is who I am. Like, it's all about me. So yeah, I share that really for people listening. Who are you going? Who do you want to be? What is that? Because that is that's your feminine energy. It's different for everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's really funny that you also mentioned and this is I think the finer points, because we have to put this in real action. It can get really ethereal and like theoretical around femininity, but I literally don't get my nails done. And my toe polish was from December. So I was like, oh, I should go get my nails done. And then I was like, honestly, I don't really care about that so much. Right. And I'm like, I'm going to just scrape off that remainder of that toenail polish. But that's how I was kind of thinking about it, right? Like, what really matters to me, not what do other people think. And it was really fun. And it made me remember that there's that whole part of me that does like to feel in that feminine and express it through my clothes. And my clothes are a really big part, or can be a part if I choose it. And it was a blast. And I said, I'm like, I'm going to be overdressed and I don't care, because it just feels fun to me. And flirty and feminine, and also expressing my vitality, right? Of like who I am right now in myself and in my life. And so I think that that's what Mary is here to talk about really at the end, is like, if that label makes you feel uncomfortable, it's really more like, are you suppressing parts of yourself?
Yeah. I love that. It totally used to make me feel uncomfortable. And one of the, quick thing I'll share is for the logical people, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. If you're a high performer, you know this, right? And it goes back to even one of your very first questions, Marni, is like, we might start to change or be different, right? But if you find yourself getting stuck, getting burnt out, or just really you are ready to expand your ability to receive love, money, just be more free and more in yourself and not care what anybody thinks about you, it's going to require you to get outside your comfort zone. And that is through your feminine energy.
Yeah. I was talking to my classmates. So this was our 40th. So we're all like 58, 59. And one of the conversations was like, you get to a certain age in your life and you kind of are less likely to give a shit. Not all the time about what other people think. But usually it's through how you experience your challenges, right? That you learn these lessons. And I would say that if you're holding on so tight, right, then you don't have the opportunity to be courageous, to grow, to fail, to learn. Because in the end, we're all looking back. Someone actually asked, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? And someone was so moved by that, they kind of put it on our little private social media. So everyone was like, basically sharing their wisdom. And that was really the bottom line. It was like, you're enough as you are, be who you are. It's all going to work out. Don't mute yourself, follow your heart, all these very like beautiful, feminine, whole integrated ways of living and being. And so for anyone who's listening, it's like, and also don't wait until you're like, feel like you've earned it at a certain age, like through your pain or your suffering, like create it, like dig for it, look for it, like bring it out sooner rather than later. Right, Mary?
I love that. Yeah. Because you know what? It's not about how much money you have in your bank account at the end of the day. It's not about if you are single or in a relationship. It's not about if you have kids or don't have kids. It's about really knowing that inherent worth already exists within you.
Yeah. Someone said like, in the end, like people will ask like, what have you done? But it's really like, who are you being and are you happy? Do you feel content? I love it. Oh my gosh. So amazing. I'm so glad that you are here. You have a free quiz about love. We're going to put that in the show notes so you can look at the lens of femininity and feminine energy through love. And it's a quiz about what's blocking you from love. So make sure you check that out for sure in our show notes. Mary, I'm going to ask you this question. If you were going to give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice about your feminine energy, what would it be?
When you said that, it spoke to my soul, Marni. I would say trust your intuition and speak your truth. Trust of what's coming through, and the action piece with that is going to be speaking up of what you're experiencing in your inner reality.
Oh my gosh, use your damn voice. Wow. Ladies, okay, we talked about everything from the theoretical to the oh so practical in this episode. So many opportunities for you to life check yourself. Mary, thank you for being here. Make sure you make sure you check out everything Mary McMonagle that you can. All her information is in the show notes. You can find us at Marni Battista _. Let us know how this episode resonated for you. Where are you struggling with receiving? How are you doing with giving and also having boundaries? And of course, if you have any other questions you want us to answer the show like our other listener did, please make sure you leave those for us in the comments or send us a DM. And whatever you do, don't blame it on someone else. Take responsibility and life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Thanks for tuning into today's show. Do you ever wake up feeling like you've already run a marathon before the day even begins? Does your coffee need a coffee just to get through the morning? Well, I feel you, and I've been there. Burnout isn't just a buzzword. It's a reality for far too many of us, especially as we navigate life over 40. But here's the good news. You don't have to accept feeling perpetually drained as your new normal. I'm excited to introduce my new flagship, Live Life on Your Terms program. This isn't just another Band-Aid fix or a fluffy self-care promise. This is about real transformation. We're diving deep to tackle the root cause of your burnout, regulate your nervous system, lower your cortisol and adrenaline, and rewire your neural pathways to transform how you feel in your life from the inside out. Imagine this, waking up energized, not by caffeine, but by excitement and passion for the day ahead. Picture yourself managing stress with grace and finding joy in moments big and small. That's not just a dream or a someday. It's within your reach now. So, if you like what you've heard and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working together, here's what I want you to do next. Email me at vip@datingwithdignity.com. Don't wait for one day. Make today your day one so we can create your next chapter. I'm Marni, and I'll talk to you soon.